Hey everybody, I'm here with Tim Schafer from Double Fine Productions. We're going to talk a little Brutal Legend multiplayer. That's right, multiplayer. Tim, the multiplayer component of Brutal Legend, is this something that came about early on in the development, or was it later on after you maybe made the single player part and decided, hey, this would be a good multiplayer game? How did it get started?
Actually, the very first idea for Brutal Legend was the idea of having these armies clashing. So, like, multiplayer was the essence of the experience we wanted to create, and that's the thing we worked on first. So we've been working on it for about 4 years, and then the single player at the same time. But we started with the multiplayer, and that's what you're checking out tonight for the first time. No one's seen it before, so hope you liked it.
So we're seeing it now, though, and we're liking what we see. So basically, you guys have showed the stage battles before, which sort of blends the action and the real-time strategy a bit. Can you talk about, basically, I guess just give us the general overview of how the multiplayer works and how it's similar to what you might find in the single player, or similar and different in a lot of key ways, really.
Yeah, I mean, the single-player campaign really helps train the player how to play the multiplayer game, where all the mechanics that you see in multiplayer are exposed to the player slowly, mission by mission in the game. You get a new unit, or you get a new guitar solo, or a new command that you can execute. So the essence of the multiplayer battle is your stage and your army versus your friend's stage and your friend's army. And it's a battle of the bands, except for the bands have axes and they have medieval weapons. So it's all about the fans. You go out on the battlefield and you capture fans. And the way you capture fans is by playing an awesome guitar solo, and that makes them loyal to your band or army, which is like the same thing in Brutal Legend. And then you have to build a merch booth for them, which keeps them loyal by selling them merchandise. Once you have fans, you can use their energy to recruit more warriors to your battle. So you can add more headbangers or razor girls or metal beasts to your army, and they come stage diving off your stage. And they go out on the battlefield to either capture more of these fan geysers or else just rush your opponent's stage and burn it down. Because that's the ultimate goal, is the total destruction of your enemy's rock show.
Now, a big part of any strategy game are the factions. What can you tell us about the factions in Brutal Legend multiplayer?
There are 3 factions in Brutal Legend multiplayer. I just hold up 4 fingers. Really not good at
You're
math.
very close, and we'll give you credit for that.
There's 3 factions in the game. There's the Iron Head, which is the army that you put together in the single-player campaign, Eddie Riggs' army. And that's what you think of when you think of a classic heavy metal or rock outfit, like what you'd see in Heavy Metal Parking Lot, the movie. There's headbangers and rocker chicks, except for there's also metal beasts that breathe fire. There's also the Drowning Doom, which is a faction of people who listen to black metal, and they also look kind of undead. And so they operate by weakening their army by playing really depressing music that makes their enemies fight worse than they normally do. Then there's the Tainted Coil, which is the demonic army. They listen to industrial metal, and they have a hierarchy of battle nuns and warfathers and overblessers. And the special hierarchy units can actually spawn other units on the battlefield. So the battle nun can create soul kissers or a punishing party right in the enemy's base. So each faction has its own advantages and its own weaknesses that make them all different to play.
Now, when I was playing earlier, I was surprised by how much strategy there was involved in there in terms of like the counters, the hard counters, and the soft counters. Can you give us a few specific examples from a typical match?
Well, you might be swarmed with infantry early on in the game, and then you would build an anti-infantry unit like the Metal Beasts, which can breathe fire and burn a bunch of gravediggers at once. Or you might be attacked by a bunch of vehicles, and there's certain characters like the Bouncer, who's this character who has gigantic fists, and he can, with a couple of punches, take out an enemy vehicle. And if you fly around in the game, you can do this kind of scouting and see what your enemy is building, and then go back to your base and build it. And that kind of depth is there for advanced players, but really, even if you're a casual player, you can just build a bunch of troops and have a lot of fun out there with your axe and your guitar and your double team attacks to just have a lot of fun and chaos in the battlefield. So it's really meant to be an accessible game for new players, as well as a deep game for a more hardcore player.
I noticed there weren't a whole lot of typical strategy bells and whistles on there. No mini map, no resource gauge all over the place, just basically confusing everybody.
It's not a strategy game, it's an action game. It really is an action game with some depth there if you really want to be more competitive about it. But it's really about rocking with your guitar and your axe and having fun out there, and then sending all your headbangers out into battle by throwing the horns. So it's still experiential. It's about having fun and not a lot of things to weigh you down. It's still a console game, it's an action game.
All right, Tim. Well, I had a great time playing. Speaking of rocking, when are we going to see the game released, and which consoles will it be available for?
Brutal Legend is coming out October 13th. for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3.
All right, Tim. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
That'll do it for Brutal Legend multiplayer. Stay tuned for more very soon.